So, what if you could write a recipe for innovation? Not for a person, but for a machine. Well, that's exactly what we're digging into today, an internal policy called G2P001. It's this fascinating step-by-step guide for getting an AI to be creative, but, only in the exact way you want it to be. Let's break it down.
This question really gets to the heart of the challenge for pretty much anyone using AI today, right? How do you tap into that incredible power to generate new ideas without it just making stuff up, getting distracted, or wandering away from the critical task you gave it? How do you get all that creativity without the chaos?
And the answer this policy gives us is, well, it's simple in theory, but it's super meticulous in practice. You don't just give the AI a goal, you build guardrails around it. You create a system that is pretty much incapable of deviating from the perfect recipe.
Okay, so let's follow this recipe together. First, we'll look at why a policy like this even needs to exist. Then, we'll see the super simple trigger that kicks the whole thing off, peek inside the engine that actually creates the content, see how it grades its own work, and finally, wrap up with why all of this really matters for anyone working with automation.
So why even bother with such a rigid policy? Well, because when you're using AI at scale, you absolutely cannot afford inconsistency. One day's brilliant analysis can easily be followed by a day of just irrelevant nonsense. This policy isn't just about creating stuff, it's about guaranteeing the same high-quality, focused output every single time.
So what exactly is policy G2P001? Think of it like a prime directive for an automated system. Its one and only purpose is to follow these instructions to the letter to produce something called a daily innovation brief. And the key phrase here is right on the screen, strict instructions. We are talking zero room for improvisation, none.
This really highlights a fundamental trade-off. We usually think of innovation as this big, expansive, unpredictable brainstorm. This policy is the complete opposite. It's intentionally narrow, it's focused. The goal isn't some wild, surprising breakthrough, it's a predictable, high-quality result, every single time.
So how do you kick off a process that's this complex and this controlled? You might think it requires some elaborate code or a whole series of commands. But the reality is, well, it's almost shockingly simple.
Yep, that's it. A human user just types daily innovation brief. That simple phrase is the key that starts the entire engine. It's a manual command that tells the system, okay, go execute this specific innovation recipe while also making sure it follows all the other global rules for safety and formatting.
Okay, the key is in the ignition. Now we get to the engine itself. This is the real heart of the policy. And let me be clear, this is not a list of suggestions. It's a step-by-step recipe that the machine must follow with absolute precision.
The recipe has 3 non-negotiable steps. First, plan. The system chooses just one topic from a pre-approved list of materials. No outside research allowed. Second, create. It writes the report on that one topic, using a specific internal document as its foundation. And third, and this is the most critical rule of all, adhere. The AI is explicitly forbidden from changing these rules. It cannot improvise on the recipe. Period.
And check out this quote from the policy. It really shows you the level of constraint we're talking about. Laser-focused. It's not just about picking one topic. It's about drilling down into specific points related to a single core document. The goal here is to aggressively eliminate any and all distracting information.
And just like a real recipe, the policy specifies the exact ingredients. The system's entire universe of knowledge is limited. So, for example, G2S-001 might be a folder of approved research, and G2A-001 could be the latest project brief. The system has to create its report using only these sources. It literally cannot go Google for answers or pull from anywhere else.
So, the machine has followed the recipe and baked the cake. But how do we know it came out right? Well, the policy includes this brilliant final step, a built-in quality check. The machine actually has to grade its own homework.
And here is its scorecard. It's a simple 4-point check. Did it generate exactly one report? Boom, 25%. Was that report focused on the key innovation points? That's another 25%. Was it founded on the core assets? 25%. And finally, did it follow all the policies? That's the last 25%. It's a pass-fail system that's totally designed for a perfect score.
And get this, it isn't enough for the system to just do the work, it has to show its work. The final output has to include this declaration of its own compliance in this exact format,
stating the score and how many things it made. It has to prove it followed the rules. And when it comes to the score, there is no grading on a curve. The only acceptable result is 100%. This system isn't designed for good enough. It is engineered for total, absolute compliance. Anything less is a failure.
All right, so we've dissected a very rigid, very specific process. So what? Why should we care? What's the big picture here? Well, it all comes down to the surprising power of constraints.
This whole approach really matters for a few key reasons. It guarantees predictable quality from a technology that can be wildly unpredictable. It gives you a clear blueprint for how to safely aim AI at specific problems. It shows that structure doesn't kill creativity, it focuses it. And maybe most importantly, it acts as a critical safety rail, It prevents the AI from going completely off script.
And that leaves us with a fascinating final question. This policy is a recipe for one specific type of report. But what happens when we start writing recipes for other, much more complex tasks? What parts of legal analysis or scientific discovery or even creative design could be reliably automated if we just define the perfect set of rules? That's the future this kind of thinking unlocks. Thanks for watching.